anthem. So, participants, there are certain ground rules which we have set in place. First of all, it is very important that you should have a very good internet connection. Okay, because there are going to be a slide presentation. If you don't have good internet connection, the slide may be a little bit blurred. So first is good internet connection. Second is I would request you all to, if possible, be on a laptop, okay, and with earphones. Earphones makes you understand better. It's a better clear audio. Okay. Third is at the bottom of the screen, you will see a chat box. Okay, I would request you all to enter your questions, your queries in that, which time and again we have our moderator, Mr. Dolphy, who will be seeing that, and whatever is relevant, he will be taking it up with the with our key speaker, that is Mr. Shailesh Gandhi. So once again, I welcome you all, and I would now request our President Advocate Rafael D'Souza to please say a few words.
Thank you, Lawrence. Respected Shailesh Gandhi ji, my principal office bearers of the Bombay Catholic Sabha, members of the executive committee, the central councillors, and my dear friends. We are going through a period of threats. There is threat to our health because of this pandemic, threat to our financial well-being owing to the lockdown and the economic stress. And now we also have threat to our country from outside forces. Apart from that, we also have another kind of threats. One kind of a threat is the false information that is being disseminated. And another set of threat is the difficulty in obtaining official information. As they say, every threat throws up opportunities. Today, we will explore the opportunity to overcome the threat of denial of official information, which is vital and necessary. I congratulate Vice President Lawrence and his team of training and youth affairs of the Sabha for organizing this virtual workshop on right to information with the best known resource person in the subject, Mr. Shailesh Gandhi. More of him, I think Lawrence will introduce him. With our own Dolphy moderating the entire session, I have no doubt that we will all go back enriched with knowledge to get the right information and use it productively for advancing our vision statement, which is to create a just society through involvement in social, civic, and political affairs, and thus build a better tomorrow today. So welcome once again, and over to Lawrence for further proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate. I would now like to introduce our key speaker for the session, Mr. Shailesh Gandhi. Mr. Gandhi was the first generation entrepreneur and a distinguished alumni awardee of the IIT Mumbai, of IIT Bombay. He sold his company to become an RTI activist. Shailesh was part of the National RTI movement, which was involved in drafting of the National Act. He was the convener of the National Campaign for People's Right to Information, that is NCPRI. He was the only RTI activist to have been chosen as a Central Information Commissioner. He disposed of a record of over 20,000 cases, ensuring most cases were decided in less than 90 days. He gave many landmark decisions on RTI. Apart from organizing the first digital paperless office in the commission, he is passionately pursuing the cause of ensuring a time-boundly justice delivery system and improving governance systems apart from conducting workshops and advocating active citizenships. So welcome Mr. Shailesh Gandhi to the Bombay Catholic Sabha, and we thank you for accepting our invitation. I would now like to introduce in short, our very own Dolphy D'Souza. Mr. Dolphy D'Souza is an ex-president of the Bombay Catholic Sabha, and he is the current project lead Mumbai for the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative. He is also associated with the Police Public Watch, the Police Reforms Watch. So, Dolphy, I welcome you, and I now request you to take over the sessions. Before we begin, I would request the participants to please put yourself on mute, and there is a chat box at the bottom where you can put in your questions. Mr. Dolphy, please take over the session. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Rafael. And thank you, Shailesh ji, for so willingly accepting our invitation to interact with our people. You have been interacting with our people for many, many years, but I think it's important for us to continue that exercise and to create that impact that you have always dreamt about, to make government accountable. Having said that, I am now leaving the floor to you so that we have more time later on in terms of interacting with the participants. So over to you, Mr. Shailesh Gandhi.
Is the presentation visible? Dolphy, can you see the presentation?
No, it is not come. It's not come.
I think somebody will have to allow me to screen share.
So it's allowed. Just check it.
Now is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, friends. Thank you very much for coming for this webinar. And I'm really grateful to the Bombay Catholic Sabha for having organized this. And I'm hoping we have an interesting evening interlude. We say India is the world's largest democracy. When I was in school, I was taught that democracy is rule of the people, for the people, by the people. Each one of us should feel like the ruler of India. But normally, if you interact with the government office, you don't feel like a ruler of India. You normally feel angry, frustrated, and humiliated as you come out. So then how is it the world's largest democracy? Are we a democracy is a question we must ask ourselves. I would submit to you that we call ourselves the world's largest democracy because we have a reasonably fair system of elections by which we are able to change leaders, governments, and so on every 5 years. True. I would submit to you that having a fair system of elections and a constitution are necessary conditions for a democracy, but are not the complete set of conditions. The heart and essence of democracy is the concept that each individual citizen is a sovereign in her own right, and she gives up part of the sovereignty to the state, in return for which she gets the rule of law. Sovereignty of the individual citizen is the key to a democracy, is the key to all human rights. Without that, there is no democracy, there is no human rights. Respect for each individual citizen. And this has been missing. One participant asked me, he said, Mr. Gandhi, आप बातें तो बड़ी चिकनी चुपड़ी करते हैं, सबको बादशाह बना दिया, बेगम बना दिया, ruler बना दिया. Can a nation run with 130 crore rulers? Is it possible to run a nation like that? And I would submit to you, yes, it is possible. It's actually happening around the world. And I'd like to give you 2 examples before I move on to right to information. The first example is of United States of America. I'm not saying everything there is good, but in terms of democracy, they have a 2-century lead over us. Any immigrant from any country, if he or she has applied for citizenship of United States or the green card, which is permission to work in the United States, they will very easily pick up a telephone to ask about the status of their application. Whether there are any defects, when is it likely to be considered, and 99% they'll get a perfectly rational answer from the other side of the telephone. You are all first-rate citizens of India. If you applied for change of address in your ration card and you don't get a reply, most probably none of you will pick up the phone to ask. Even if you go to the office, your chances are 50-50 of getting a rational answer. This is what I call sovereigns of the nation. Not just citizen, any human being must get respect because he or she is a human being. And the second story I'd like to tell you is a story all of you have heard. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi got inside that train in South Africa 125 years back, and the white man objected. Hence, he was taken off the train. In that same story is written that Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi complained about what had happened to him by a telegram 125 years back. And in about 12 to 14 hours, a railway official came and put him on the next train. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was not a citizen of South Africa. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, by the South African law, was a second-rate human being because he was a brown man. Despite that, the system responded because one human being had complained. That is what is important for a democracy. That is what will get better governance for us once we respect one individual. Today, the United States is aflame because one human being was mistreated and killed because of the color of his skin. That respect for one individual, importance of one individual human being is what goes to make a good democracy, is what then leads to good governance. It's a corollary of that. It's not the other way around. The right to information, the first such law worldwide came on 2nd December 1776 in Sweden. After that, for nearly 150 years, no country enacted such a law. In the last century, about 120 countries now have such laws. They are known by 3 different names: Freedom of Information, FOI, Access to Information, ATI, and Right to Information, RTI. These are synonymous terms. In India, the first movement for RTI was started in Devdungri village in Rajasthan. Aruna Roy gave up an IAS job to go and work there. Nikhil Day, a lawyer trained in America, young, much younger to Aruna Roy, joined her. And the third man was Shankar Singh, who belonged to the village itself. And these 3 people started the movement of right to information, and villagers joined in. And the first movements were not in cities, but in villages in around 1992. 2005, 12th October, we got a national act, and now that is what is applicable, and we'll discuss this. And my method of discussing this is primarily to explain to you the provisions of the law. This is an extremely simple law. Anybody can understand this law. And once you understand the provisions, you are better equipped to deal with government officers and so on. And that is what the objective is. Empowerment of the individual citizen. And I'm hoping at the end of this talk, all of you feel convinced that you are the Badshahs or Begums of this nation. We are a Lokshahi. Lokshahi means Logo ki Shahanshahi. And you are the Badshah or Begum of this nation. So let's go down this journey of the Right to Information Act 2005. The preamble is a very important part of a law, just as the preamble of the Constitution is very important for us. The preamble of the RTI Act, it gives the heart and soul of what is the objective. Whereas the Constitution of India is an established democratic republic, and whereas democracy requires an informed citizenry and transparency of information, which are vital to its functioning, and also to contain corruption and to hold governments and their instrumentalities accountable to the governed. And whereas revelation of information in actual practice is likely to conflict with other public interests, including efficient operations of the governments, optimum use of limited fiscal resources, and the preservation of confidentiality of sensitive information. And whereas it is necessary to harmonize these conflicting interests, while preserving the paramountcy of the democratic ideal. This is the preamble. Parliament was aware that there would be some difficulties in implementing the law, and this law harmonizes them. When did we get the Right to Information Act? Not when did we get right to information? Not when the act was passed. The right to information is a fundamental right of citizens under Article 19(1)(a), and this came into being on 26 January 1950, the day the Constitution of India was made. Then why do we talk of the law? Because it was not codified. Yes, you were entitled to get information, but who has to give it, how many days, how will you work? That is what has been done by the Right to Information Act. Now let's look at what is information. Information means any material in any form, including records, etc., etc., and information relating to any private body which can be accessed by a public authority under any other law for the time being in force. In simple terms, and this is something which a lot of people who use right to information for years don't understand, this is right to information, not right to interrogation. Whatever exists is information on a record, in a computer, even works. A road is part of right to information. A government building is part of right to information, but it must exist. You cannot ask the meaning of a law or the clarification of a law. If you ask and say, if I apply for a job, will I get a government job? That is not seeking information, that is interrogating, and nobody has to give his opinion on it just because an RTI application has come. But whatever exists is yours, and it's yours because you are the ruler of this nation. Who has to give information? The law says public authorities have to give information. And what's a public authority? Section 2H defines public authority means any authority or body or institution of self-government established or constituted by or under the Constitution, by any other law made by Parliament, by any other law made by state legislature. A, B, and C effectively cover everything that we normally call government. State government, central government, municipal authorities, panchayats, all of these are covered by 1, 2, and 3. Some bodies are created by an act of parliament or state legislature. For example, the Sikh Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee has been formed by an act of parliament, therefore it's a public authority. By notification issued or order made by the appropriate government. For example, deemed universities are created by a notification issued by government, and therefore they are public authorities, and includes any body owned, controlled, or substantially financed. Currently, the PM Cares is saying we are not a public authority. Wrong. As per law, they are controlled by government. They may not be financed. They may not be owned. Public sector banks and public sector undertakings which have shareholdings, they are owned because when they have over 50%, they are owned by the government. Substantially financed. Government money is my money and your money. You own that money. And therefore, where your money is, you have a right to get accounts, you have a right to get information about those. NGO substantially financed directly or indirectly by funds provided by the appropriate government. One interesting case I'd like to share with you, Mumbai Metro One Private Limited. If I asked most of you, you would say it's a Reliance company. I was aware that there was some government money in Mumbai Metro One Private Limited, so I asked for some information. And they said, we will not give it to you, Mr. Gandhi. We are a private company. It's a Reliance company. So I dug a little deeper, and this is what I discovered. Government has given 780 crores to Mumbai Metro One Private Limited, plus 600 crores worth of land given Phuket to the project. How much money has Reliance put in? 380 crore rupees. And yet it's called a Reliance company. How is this? It is black magic. What they do with 780 crores is they give it two labels. 600 crores is called viability gap funding and 180 crores is called equity. Therefore, Reliance gets 76%, 74% of the stake, and government, you and I, get 26% of the stake. Imagine the kind of fraud. All public-private partnerships are actually public authorities as defined in the law. Right to information means the right to information accessible under this act, which is held by or under the control of any public authority and includes the right to inspection of work, documents and records, taking notes, extracts or certified copies of documents or records, taking certified samples of material. You can inspect work, documents and files in any government office. You can inspect a work, you can inspect a building. One young chap went and inspected a government hospital and discovered that the equipment that was supposed to be there is not there. You can also take samples of material. All this is included in right to information. CCTV footage is also included. Most important of all, Section 3. Subject to the provisions of this Act, all citizens shall have the right to information. Is anybody else got the screen sharing right? Because I'm seeing lines which are not there in the presentation. Are you seeing the lines in the presentation? Somebody else is putting these lines because these are not there in the presentation. Anyway, we'll live with it. Please put off screen sharing if anybody has got it by mistake. He may be doing this. Who has the right to information? All citizens of India, because it's our fundamental right, it's our government. Can any information be denied to the citizens? Logically, if the government belongs to you, everything that belongs to the government belongs to us individually. Each one of us is the owner. Every car, building, furniture, tube light in the government belongs to us, each one of us individually. When I was explaining this, one place, a young chap got up and said, Mr. Gandhi, can I take the government car home? If I own it, why can't I take it home? He cannot take it home because it is in partnership with 130 crore other Indians. So if he takes it home, he deprives the others. But all the information in the government is also owned by all of us. 130 crore Indians own all the information. And therefore, if information is given to us, it does not deprive anybody else. The default mode is all information on the government records belongs to each one of us and we have a right to get it. Can any information be denied saying it's confidential? The answer is no. But there are 10 provisions in Section 8.1 of information that can be denied, and Section 9, which is information which is copyrighted by somebody, so somebody's copyright cannot be violated. Apart from that, all of the information belongs to all of us and must be given. Section 4 is the heart of the RTI Act. Really speaking, if you are the owner, why do you even have to ask for information? It should come to you automatically. The government is supposed to give you the information because you are the owner. Every public authority shall maintain all its records duly catalogued and indexed in a manner and form which facilitates the right to information under this Act, and ensure that all records that are appropriate to be computerized are within a reasonable time and subject to availability of resources computerized and connected through a network all over the country on different systems so that access to such records is facilitated. I'd like to stress on this and explain what was the promise to the people of India of this Act, that you would get most of the information automatically. 15 years have gone, this is not really happening. But this computerization, I'd like to deal with this for a few seconds. It's a standard experience of a lot of people that you go to a government office for some work because of some complaint or some application or some representation you made, and you are told file nahi beta hai. You give 100 rupees, the file may surface. You give 200 rupees, a record may be changed. Give 500 rupees, a record may be removed. For a few thousand rupees, the entire file can be made to disappear. Also, if a few lakh rupees are paid, there can be a fire in Mantralaya, or the income tax records of Neerav Modi's companies may be eaten by termites. All of this can become history if everything is run on a computer without paper. Today, a file in Borivali, if it has to go to the provincial head office, it has to be physically taken there. From there, if it has to go to Mantralaya, it has to physically go there. From there, if it has to go to Delhi, it has to go physically. In this pilgrimage of a file, you can have ample scope for corruption, the files getting lost, for records being changed, all of which can stop if we had only electronic files. Computers are available in all of government offices, but they are being used as electric typewriters. This is a demand citizens must make, and we must pressurize government to go for a paperless situation. 30% of India's corruption will disappear if we go for a paperless computerized system. Okay, various things are there. And one study that we have done showed that 50% of the RT applications would not have to be made if information as per section 4 was available. Somebody's got screen sharing. Can you please stop that? No, whoever's got screen sharing is not stopping it. Please, may I request someone, whoever it is, please stop the screen sharing. Let everyone, thank you. God bless you. Okay, every office, fair enough. I understand what is right to information. I understand information, who has to give information. How do I get this information? The law says every public authority, every administrative office of a public authority must have a nominated public information officer. You don't need to know his name. You don't know to know his designation. You send an RT application to public information officer at a particular address where you believe the information may exist. You believe. Supposing the information is not with that officer, it doesn't matter. Within the same office or same department, he should access the information and give it to you. You are the ruler. If the information does not belong to that department at all or that government office, can he give it back to you and say you go to another government office? The answer is no. The law says he must transfer it within 5 days. Keep thinking carefully. You are the owner, you are the ruler of this nation. So he cannot give it back to you. He must transfer it within 5 days. Request for information. A person who desires to obtain any information under this act shall make a request in writing or through electronic means in English or Hindi or the official language of the area in which the application is being made. In Maharashtra, it will normally be Marathi. The act does not say in what language the information shall be supplied to you. It is left to the convenience of the PIO or the office to give it in the language that they are comfortable with. 2. An applicant making request for information shall not be required to give any reason for requesting the information or any other personal details except those that may be necessary for contacting him. This is my fundamental right. I own that information, so I do not have to give any information as to why I want the information. If anybody asks you, why do you want the information? It is wrong. Tomorrow they will ask me why I want to speak, why I want to publish anything. No reasons need to be required. A lot of people in power dislike this and they say, no, somebody should give reasons. Completely flawed. This is my fundamental right. Disposal of request. On receipt of a request under section 6, PIO shall as expeditiously as possible, and in any case within 30 days of the receipt of the request, either provide the information on payment of such fee as may be prescribed, or reject the request for any of the reasons specified in sections 8 or 9. Only under section 8 or 9 can a request be rejected. Otherwise, information has to be given. They cannot say this is confidential, this is sensitive, I don't want to give it to you. That is all not as per the law. The underlining has been done by me in some places, that's not in the law. If PIO fails to give decision on the request for information within the period specified, 30 days, the PIO shall be deemed to have refused the request. And if you read the act completely, it means refuse the request without any reasons for which a penalty is imposable. PIO must give details of, now, okay, there is a fee, a nominal fee of 10 rupees for the application. In Maharashtra, the most convenient way is to take a 10 rupee court fee stamp and stick it on your paper. For the central government, court fee stamp will not work. A 10 rupee Indian postal order must be attached with the application. Alternately, you can also do it online, and the online web link is given later on. you can go and give the application directly to the office, or you can send, a convenient method is sending it by speed post and keeping a speed post tracking report so that you know on which date the office received the RT application. If information is to be provided to you, a small token fee of 2 rupees per page is charged. This is not the cost of doing things. This is nominal because it has been given to the owner just to make it sure that it's not completely misused. Person making request for the information shall be provided the information free of charge where a public authority fails to comply within the time limits specified in 30 days. So if it takes more than 30 days, information shall be given to you without any charge. Even if it's a 1,000-page information, instead of asking you to pay 2,000 rupees, the PIO will have to give it to you free. 30-day period, I thought I'll just explain. PIO receives RT application day 1. After X days, PIO sends letter asking additional fees. 30-day clock stops. Additional fees paid, 30-day clock starts. Information sent after Y days, X plus Y should be less than or equal to 30 days. If RT application is transferred, they get 5 days for transferring, which is 35 days. Now, I again want to stress, RTI is a fundamental right of citizens under Article 19(1)A, which guarantees freedom of speech and expression. Variety of Supreme Court judgments have held that this includes right to information and right to publish. Right to publish also arises only from Article 19(1)A. When somebody says to ask for information, it should be in public interest, nobody says that for right to publish or right to speak. I can speak, it does not have to be in public interest. I can speak because it's my right to speak. To get information, ideally the government must give me 50-60% of the information on without having to ask for it. For example, the situation I described where everything else on computer, every evening, whatever has happened in the office can be on the website in a proper manner. The only permissible restrictions are given. Can any restrictions be put on my fundamental right? Yes, subject to that provision being in the Constitution. The only permissible restrictions on Article 19(1) are given in Article 19(2), which permits reasonable restrictions in the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relations with foreign state, public order, decency or morality, or in relation to contempt of court, defamation, or incitement to an offense. This is what has been captured under Section 8(1) of the RTI Act, which we'll see. Section 8(1) is just 380 words. Study that carefully and nobody can fool you after that. Notwithstanding anything contained in this Act, there shall be no obligation to give any citizen information disclosure of which would prejudicially affect the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security, strategic, scientific, or economic interests of the state, relation with foreign state, or lead to incitement of an offense. For example, the army is also covered under RTI. If you ask where are the troops and how many troops are in different places, that would be denied to you under Section 8(1)A. 8(1)B. Information which has been expressly forbidden to be published by any court of law or tribunal, or the disclosure of which may constitute contempt of court. Quite often, PIOs tend to use this to deny information which is sub judice, which is not as per law, it is illegal. Parliament did not use the word sub judice. If somebody denies, you should ask and say, show me a specific order of a court which says this information should not be given. C, information the disclosure of which would cause a breach of privilege of Parliament or the state legislature. What kind of information is this? Information, let's say a budget paper. If you ask for it before the budget is presented, it will be denied. Commission of Inquiry report. Within 6 months, it is supposed to be placed in the Parliament or state legislature. Therefore, before that, it can be denied. But once the period of 6 months is over, they cannot deny it. They cannot hide a Commission of Inquiry report from you. Information, including commercial confidence, trade secrets, or intellectual property, the disclosure of which would harm the competitive position of a third party. There's a larger public interest clause which we'll deal with later. Only if an exemption applies do you have to show a larger public interest. Otherwise, no need to show any public interest. Information must have two characteristics. It should be in the nature of commercial confidence, and it must harm somebody's competitive position. For example, if you asked the Food and Drug Authority for information regarding Coke's formulation, this would be denied, saying it would hurt their commercial competitive interests. But Air India can claim this, State Bank of India can claim this because they are in a competitive position. Indian Railways cannot claim it. Similarly, details regarding a tender, before the tender is awarded, this can be claimed. Once the tender is awarded, this cannot be claimed because nobody's competitive interest can then be hurt. Information available to a person is fiduciary relationship. Fiduciary is a term which most government officers don't understand, most citizens also don't understand. Quite often it's common for PIOs to derive information saying somebody has trust in government, therefore he gives it. Wrong. A standard fiduciary, the traditional fiduciary relationships are lawyer-client, banker-customer, doctor-patient, a father in a confession, and the person who's confessing. What are the characteristics of this fiduciary relationship? Somebody gives information to somebody with superior knowledge for his or her benefit. The other thing is, it is given for your benefit, and it's the other person to whom you give the information cannot disclose it to anybody, but you can disclose it, the information, the advice received, to anybody you like. You have a choice of whom to go to. You can choose your lawyer, your doctor, your padre to whom you want to make a confession. There is no legal requirement asking you to do that. Most information in government records is not held in a fiduciary relationship. You trust that person. Yes, trust is one element. Therefore, you choose a lawyer or a doctor because you trust him. You don't choose government because you trust them. You have to give information in most cases because there is a regulation requiring you to give it to them. Information received in confidence from foreign government. This is the only place where the word confidence has been used. If information has come from a foreign government and they say it's given in confidence, then there is no further argument on that. Information, the disclosure of which would endanger the life or physical safety of any person or identify the source of information or assistance given in confidence for law enforcement or security purposes. If disclosing the information would endanger somebody's life or physical safety, this would not be given. Information which would impede the process of investigation or apprehension or prosecution of offenders. When an investigation is ongoing, most of you would believe information can be denied under this clause. No. The Parliament used the word impede. Somebody has to show how giving information would impede the process of investigation. A common way is people have filed a complaint and they know that no investigation is happening, therefore they ask for the progress of the investigation. And quite often PIOs denies this, saying section 8(1)(h). Wrong. A complainant is unlikely to impede the process of investigation, and 70% of the cases where information is denied using section 8(1)(h) are wrong. 8(1)(i). Cabinet papers including records of deliberations of the councils of ministers, secretaries and other officers, provided that the decisions of the councils of ministers, the reasons thereof, and the material on the basis of which the decisions were taken shall be made public after the decision has been taken and the matter is complete or over. This is a very interesting exemption. Up to a particular point, cabinet papers, etc., are exempt. But once a decision is taken, they are expected to, of their own suo motu, give the information to public. For example, if a bill is presented to Parliament, before the bill is presented, the cabinet note and the deliberations cannot be disclosed. But once the bill is presented in Parliament, it is incumbent that within 6 or 7 days or 10 days, the government must put the reasoning and the reasons and the cabinet note on the website so that citizens can discuss a new law, a new bill being presented in Parliament. That's the whole idea of a democracy. 8(1)j is the most popular exemption and is most misused by PIOs, which says information which relates to personal information, the disclosure of which has no relationship to any public activity or interest, or which would cause unwarranted invasion of the privacy of the individual. As I said, larger public interest clause we'll take later, provided that the information which cannot be denied to the Parliament or a state legislature shall not be denied to any person. Let's look at this a little carefully. If it's personal information, your name is personal, your age is personal, your educational qualifications are personal. The disclosure of it may qualify. It does not become personal information, can be denied. The disclosure of which has no relationship to any public activity or interest. 95% of the information in government bodies is public records, and it is there because it's a consequence of a public activity, or which would cause unwarranted invasion of the privacy of the individual. Now, what is privacy? It's a very debatable issue, and a lot of discussions would be there. We were aware of this. Therefore, we provided a proviso to this, which is the acid test which must be met. Provided that the information which cannot be denied to the parliament or a state legislature shall not be denied to any person. Anyone who denies information, public information officer, first appellate authority, information commissioner, or judge, under section 8(1)(j, must make a subjective assessment that he would deny this information to parliament. And this is linked to Article 19(2) of the Constitution, where the only two words linked to privacy are decency or morality. If giving some information would violate decency or morality, it should not be given to parliament, it should not be given to any citizen at all. 8(1)(j is a very restrictive exemption, but it's becoming very wide, and people say personal information is, therefore we will not give it, which is wrong and not as per the law. Notwithstanding anything in the Official Secrets Act 1923, nor any of the exemptions permissible in accordance with subsection 1, a public authority may allow access to information if public interest in disclosure outweighs the harm to the protected interest. Please understand, only if exemption is established does any public interest have to be established. To give an example, supposing you were to ask Punjab National Bank for details of Nirav Modi's transactions, they may deny it under saying it's a fiduciary relationship, which is valid, but you may be able to argue that a major fraud has been committed, therefore there's a larger public interest in disclosure. Public interest is required to be shown only when an exemption is accepted. If you are unhappy with the decision of the PIO or he doesn't respond to you, you must file a first appeal to a first appellate authority within 30 days. How do I know who the first appellate authority is? You don't need to know. The law requires the PIO to give you information on the first appellate authority. Supposing the PIO does not respond or does not give me the information, what do I do? A simple technique is file a first appeal to first appellate authority, care of public information officer to the same office, and put below that the law requires you to give me details. Since you have not given it, it is now your duty to give the information to the to pass this on to the first appellate authority. First appellate authority should decide in 30 days, but he can extend by 15 days. If result of first appeal not satisfactory, file second appeal to the commission within 90 days. Section 19(5) says onus on PIO that denial of information was justified. You don't have to justify why you need the information. The PIO has to justify that. Can someone please stop this? It's a request with folded hands. Somebody is doing this. Somebody's got screen sharing. Please let us do this workshop with folded hands, I'm saying. Section 20. If information denied without reasonable cause, commission must penalize the PIO, deem PIO at rupees 250 per day of delay after giving an opportunity of explaining. Maximum penalty rupees 25,000. Commission can also recommend disciplinary action against the officer. This is the teeth of the act. This is the reason why the act works. If information is not given without reasonable cause, PIO must be penalized at the rate of 250 rupees per day of delay up to 25,000 rupees. This is the reason why the act works. Unfortunately, most commissioners do not penalize whenever there is a infringement of the law. And that is the reason some of the sheen of the law is becoming less, and the commissions are taking 1 year and 2 years to give decisions. That's the other reason why the act is becoming slightly weaker. Section 22 is very important. The provisions of this act shall have effect notwithstanding anything inconsistent therewith contained in the Official Secrets Act and any other law for the time being in force, or in any instrument having effect by virtue of any law other than this act. This act overrides all of the laws. Very categorically, Parliament has said this. You cannot say the Supreme Court rules say this. Normally, most laws are a little complex because somebody will say Companies Act says this, somebody will say Banking Act says this, somebody else will say the RBI Act says this. or the Charities Commissioner Act says this. In this law, in terms of giving information, categorically Parliament has stated this law overrides all other laws, including the Official Secrets Act, and only the provisions of Section 8(1) can be used to deny information. Appeals. RT application, information in 30 days. If no information provided or unsatisfactory response, first appeal to be filed within 30 days of response or 60 days in case of no response. First appellate authority, order after hearing within 45 days. If unsatisfactory order or no response, second appeal to commission within 90 days. This is the format of application for Maharashtra. And with this is a RTI story, which is very famous and demonstrates, do you get a form anywhere? The answer is no. Any plain piece of paper is your form. You may use a format given by Maharashtra. For central government, there's no format, but you can use the Maharashtra format. Your RT application is addressed to the Public Information Officer, name of the office with address, full name of applicant, etc. This is a very famous story. A young boy from Vidarbha came to Mumbai looking for a job. Where did he stay? He stayed in a hut with a chacha of his. And while he was going around, there was an RTI workshop being held in the Basti. RTI workshops are held in all kinds of places. He sat down, understood that any plain piece of paper is his form. He can do a handwritten, computer generated or typewritten application addressed to the Public Information Officer of the office where he believes the information is likely to be. He understood what is information. Information is what is on record. Having understood all this, he moved on. He got a job, and after a few days, he went to a ration office to give his rationing card application. He gave the application. As he was going out, at the door, the peon met him. And the peon said, "Tumko ration card chahiye kya?" He said, "Haan bhai, iske liye to form bhara." The peon said, "Chai pani lagega." The boy said, "Aapko chai pila dunga." The peon said, "Nahi, chai pani does not mean chai pilana. You have to pay 2,000 rupees if you want a ration card." This boy, without batting an eyelid, said, "I shall not give a bribe. Main ghoos nahi dunga." The peon shrugged. He said, "Stupid chap coming from village doesn't understand. All his life he'll not get a ration card." This boy went back. In the Basti, he asked people who were coming from villages. They were all paying 2,000 rupees bribes and getting their ration cards in 40-45 days. He waited 3 months. And after that, this is the RT application he filed. I had given an application for a ration card on 5th August 2006. I want the following information about its progress in the following format. Date on which application received, name and designation of the officer receiving it, action taken, date on which forwarded to next officer office. There will be as many rows as the number of officers who handle the complaint. Attested photocopies of all letters and notings will be provided. 2. I want a list of ration cards issued in the last 2 months, giving the dates on which the applications were made and the dates on which the ration cards were issued. He sought information which has to be on records. What information would they give him? Saying the paper has not moved because chai pani nahi diya hai. And they have given to others. It will be very clear that without any rhyme or reason, the officer had not issued the ration card. So next day, the peon went to his house and said, "Aapko saab ne bulaya hai." He went to the rationing office. The officer, as soon as he saw him, said, "Arey, ye aaye hain, inke liye kursi le aao. Aur inke liye inka ration card le aao, aur ek cup chai aur ek gilas pani inke liye le aao." He did not give chai pani, he got chai pani instead. And this cup of tea, in my opinion, is respect. More than information, more than getting his ration card, is respect for the sovereign citizen of this nation. That is what right to information is all about. Another case I'd like to tell you, and I'd also like to tell you about an appeal format. One day, in fact, I'll read out the RT application, which would make it evident to you. According to a news report in the Times of India dated 29th April 06, Inspector Prakash Avari was accused of raping a minor girl in September 2005. He was acquitted by the Sessions Court in February and has been reinstated in service. I read this in the newspaper and was feeling very angry that most probably a person who had raped a minor was being reinstated in service. I said, let me try with RTI. I want a Xerox copy of the order reinstating him along with the file notings based on when the decisions were taken. I did not say, why are you reinstating him? I said, I want a copy of the letter and what is the reasoning given on that. The PIO did not give me the information. So I filed a first appeal. And this is the first appeal. The grounds for appeal. Facts of the case. I had asked for information regarding the reinstatement of Inspector Prakash Avare as per the attached application. The PIO first sent me a letter saying that the information will be provided by Bhaikala Police Station. PIO Bhaikala replied by his letter of 16.5 that the information could not be provided as it was exempt under section 8.1h, which exempts information which would impede the process of investigation or apprehension or prosecution of offenders. Grounds for appeal. PIO has not shown how providing the information could impede any investigation. In fact, no investigation is being held since Prakash Avare has been reinstated. The rejection is without any basis in law. And the story I'm telling you, the significance. I went for a first appeal hearing. At that time, I was not a commissioner, I was just an ordinary citizen of Mumbai. A very good deputy commissioner of police was the appellate authority. He said, Mr. Gandhi, what can we do? The court has let him off. I said, sir, all I'm asking for is a record. Citizens will know on what basis the decision was taken. And from my perspective, there are two possibilities, sir. Either Prakash Avare is guilty of the crime he is alleged to have committed, and this would be a great disservice to the police and to the people if he is reinstated. Alternately, Prakash Avare was innocent. If he was innocent, somebody framed him. That person should be held accountable. What kind of situation is this where no crime was committed? A crime was committed, there is nobody responsible. He saw the point I was making. And he said, Mr. Gandhi, let me see. And he was a very good officer. Within 20 days, I got it in writing from the police commissioner's office that Police Inspector Prakash Avare had been dismissed from service. That is the power of right to information that any one citizen can use. You don't need any position. Any one citizen, any one of you, the sovereign of this nation, can use this with such effect. Does this happen with all RT applications? The answer is no. I've just given you two stories where success was there. There are RT applications which no response is given. There are RT applications which are denied wrongly. Then what is the point? In my overall understanding of this law, in about 30% of the cases, only 30%, some small difference in government takes place. Some change, small change, sometimes very, very small. Here's a dream I'd like to share with you. If 30 lakh Indian citizens, 30 lakh is not a big figure. If 30 lakh Indian citizens, the sovereigns of this nation, take a vow that once a month, they'll make one RT application on some subject. What subject, people say? My observation is that all Indian citizens crib for at least about 3 hours every month about what is wrong with government. Police aisa hai, roads are like this, doctors are like this, ministers are like this, politicians are like this. The scribbing changes nothing. It can change nothing. My submission is 30 lakh Indian citizens take a vow that once a month they'll spend 1 hour, take it out of the crib time, crib for 2 hours, 1 hour, file one RT application. Filing an RT application does not need more than half an hour, in fact. And don't worry whether you got information or not, whether you filed an appeal or not. If you want to do that, very good. Even if you don't want to do that, just look at it as a duty you are doing. Filing one RT application once a month. 30% of them will succeed. In case, even if you don't get information, maybe somebody else's will make the difference, or maybe your RT application will make the difference. You may not even know. At one such place, I was giving this workshop, and an old gentleman about my age got up and said, Mr. Gandhi, India mein kuch hota hi nahi hai. I filed so many complaints, I made so many representations, I went and met the chief minister. Kuch nahi hota hai. India mein kuch hone wala hi nahi hai. To them I say, many of us go to mandirs, masjids, gurudwaras, churches, agyaris, once a day, once a week, once a month, or once a year. When you go there and come out, is there an extra 100 rupee note in our wallet? It's not. Do we feel we become younger, more beautiful, more handsome? None of that happens. You can't see anything really. Why do we do it? We do it as an act of faith. We have faith that by doing this, something good will happen to me, my family, my city, my nation. We do it as an act of faith. There is no direct connection we can see, but we do it as an act of faith. What do we do for the nation as an act of faith? Zero. Let us think of doing this as an act of faith for the nation. You are responsible. Unless you make that change, change will not come. India will not change and become a better government. There's no messiahs who are going to come. You, the sovereign, has to take responsibility. And the sovereign does take responsibility. A sovereign does not say, I'm king and therefore I need to do nothing. If something goes wrong, he or she takes responsibility, tries to correct it. You are the sovereigns. Here's an opportunity. We can make a change and bring a change. Summary, central government, Maharashtra government is similar. No specified format for application and first appeals. Useful to use Maharashtra format. Application fee ₹10 for central government. It is Indian postal order. For Maharashtra government, it would be court fee stamp of ₹10. No fees for appeals. For second appeal, for the central government, no fees. For Maharashtra government, first appeal and second appeal, the fees are ₹20. Online RTI application can be done, and first appeal also can be filed. For the central government, rtionline.gov.in. For Maharashtra government, rtionline.maharashtra.gov.in. Mera Bharat Mahan, we often say. It's written in tempos, trucks, everywhere. But you don't really believe it, do we? Therefore, I say, Mera Bharat Mahan nahi hai. Mera Bharat Mahan nahi hai, par ye dosh mera hai. I, the individual sovereign of this nation, am responsible. It is my duty. We don't have to get together. We can do this from our houses, from our offices, half an hour of your time. And maybe 70, 80 rupees expense for your postage or RTI online. You can bring a change. You are responsible for bringing this change, and only you can bring the change. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shailesh Gandhi. We will right away jump into the questions. There have been 2 questions in the chat box. So we are requesting participants to put their questions on the chat box. So one question is, can we question private companies regarding their CSR funds and their usage?
Think of it logically. Who has to give information in RTI? Public authorities. How will a private company come into that? It will not come into that. But you could ask income tax authorities about details of CSR funds paid. They can give it to you. For example, a normal registered cooperative housing society is not under RTI. But you can apply to the Register of Societies for information that they are supposed to file with them. So a normal private company, the answer is no. RTI will not apply to them.
Another question is, somebody wants to inquire about railway land. So where does one send an RTI?
Either to the Railway Ministry, or if you know the particular department that handles railway lands. I don't know but you can send it to the Railway Ministry itself.
Okay, another question is, can information be sought under RTI from police authorities with regard to flats given on leave and license, as license records are compulsory to be given to police?
I didn't understand this question, Dolphy.
Yeah, it's basically simple. Generally, any person renting out their place, there is what we call leave and license.
Right.
Now, there is also provision under the Mumbai Police Act that every tenant that has been tenanted, that details along with copy of the leave and license needs to be furnished to the police department at the local police station level where it is.
Right.
So the question that is being asked is whether this information can be sought from the police.
Yes, the answer is, look at it from another perspective. Can you see any exemption applying? You don't have to ask Shailesh Gandhi. Think logically. And if somebody claims a false exemption, file an appeal and argue about it. We've discussed the exemptions. If it is not exempt, it has to be given. That's the default mode.
Yeah. Another question is, on what grounds can they claim that information can be denied under Section 818? Does the PIO have to provide an exact reason for such denial, or is there any mechanism for the applicant to question the decision?
No, no. First, any exemption under Section 8.1, the PIO must give reasoning as to how that applies. He cannot just say 8.1 A, B, C, D, anything like that. He is expected to give reasons, and that the law says also categorically when he refuses to give information. And then on his reasoning, you may counter and say, no, this is not correct reasoning.
Okay. Can the Modi government stop RTI inquiries like they did for the PM Care Fund? Is this legal?
It is illegal. It is against the law. What they are perhaps playing on, I'm guessing, is that they will drag it to courts and therefore delay the whole thing. In my opinion, legally they are completely wrong. They should explain how they are claiming that they are not controlled. See, the Prime Minister is chairman of the trust. There are 3 other ministers.
Okay.
All these 4 are people who have to represent the government's view. They may make the government view, but they are also, even if it was ex officio anybody, any government officer or public servant has to work as per the government's norms. So therefore, it is complete control of the government, and therefore the denial is completely illegal.
Another question that comes up always is when you're filing a RTI with the PMC, whom do you file it with? Because so many departments are there. So is there any methodology that one can follow?
If you are aware of the department holding the information, apply there. If you are not aware, you can send it to the assistant commissioner of your ward or to the municipal commissioner himself. He will have to send it to whichever office it is, but you must make a reasonable attempt to figure out where the information is likely to be. If you are not, please file it with one of these people.
Okay. Do cooperative housing societies and places of worship come under the purview of RTI?
Just because it's a cooperative housing society, no. Just because it's a place of worship, the answer is no. Unless you can show that it is funded by government, substantial funding of government is there. Otherwise, no.
Okay. What about trusts and private schools?
Again,
There are what we call charitable trusts and private schools.
The answer is they don't come under RTI. But information that they are, let's say, a registered trust has to file with the charity commissioner, you can access information from the charity commissioner on information that they are supposed to file there.
Okay. See, this question is slightly vague, but maybe you can make sense of it. Can a civil servant like an IAS or an IPS or any other civil servant can deny any confidential information from people if asked by any person to the civil servant? I have not been able to understand this question.
What they are saying is, the way I am able to understand this question is, can confidential information be denied? That's whether to IAS or anybody. It's not the IAS officer, it's a PIO who is denying information or giving information. First is the information there? If the answer is yes, information exists. If the information is denied saying it's confidential, it is illegal. It is not as per law. It has to be justified only in terms of section 8.1A to J.
Okay. Another question is a franchisee of the government electric distribution company a public authority?
No. Unless you can, again, I say, go back to the definition of public authority. If you can prove that substantial finance is given by the government, then yes.
Okay.
If it's a public-private partnership, then yes.
Okay.
But if it's an independent franchisee, the answer would be no.
Okay. Payments made for land acquisition in Mumbai. How or whom to file an RTI?
Whoever is making the payment, I will not know which department makes the payment. But again, in case of seriously not being able to understand where to do, simple technique, not to be used every time. We must try and responsibly figure out from the internet or somewhere which is the department.
Okay.
Alternatively, this is a simple device, file it to the chief minister or the municipal commissioner.
Okay.
But I would say, as responsible citizens, we should also try and figure out. But if we just cannot find out, while in there, we'll have to transfer the RT application.
Okay. Not many questions that we have come in. We're expecting more questions to come in, basically. Just a minute.
If anyone wants to ask, they can raise their hand or something.
Yeah, that can be done. Alvin, you'll have to, if you're seeing any raising of hands, you'll have to unmute the person. I see Edward and Sanjay DeCruz. Please be brief in terms of your query. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
So Edward,
Yes.
yeah. Yes, sir. Sanjay, shoot.
Sir, I wanted to ask that whether government authority can force to give information to RIT applicant to the private offices who is not funded by government.
Information regarding a private, which is with the government. Do I understand correctly?
Hello.
Information regarding a private enterprise or a private person, which is with government.
Okay. Yeah.
All information with government keeps information for me and you. Nobody else will. Unless it is exempt, then information must be shared.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, there is a query from
Thank you, sir.
Zuzate, which says, can you let me know if there's any protection in terms of security in case one's life is in danger if one files an RTI? You can put, my standard answer to that is, there's no such provision for special security to RTI applicants. If that was there, this would create a new kind of VIPs. But if you feel that it may threaten your life or your physical safety, my submission is twofold. Either get 10-15 people to file RTI applications or get somebody from another city to file the RTI application. Or if you feel real threat, don't do it. Your life and safety is important and paramount, I would say. Think of other things. There are lots of things where you are not going to run into mafia.
Yeah.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Sir, CIC hears the matters through video conferencing. But in UP, the State Information Commission doesn't hear through video conferencing. It is very inconvenient for an applicant, a complainant, or an appellant.
They've just started. They've just started.
Many a times the Matthew advice how.
Hello.
What time we have for the time schedule?
No time schedule. No.
Okay.
We had asked the State Information Commission to do that, and they've just started since 15th, hearing on video conferencing.
Edward Rodriguez, Alvin, you could unmute him.
Actually, I have unmuted him, but he is not muted. This thing, what he is not doing anything.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't have a question. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else wants to raise questions? Maybe we can take the last two questions.
There's somebody, Zuarte, can we seek information on the duty of the state with regard to the provision of basic amenities like food, health facilities in the context of COVID? Please look at it like this. Is there a record? Then you can ask for a record. If you say, no, what are your duties? That's vague. If there is a report, then that report can be accessed. It has to be information on paper or computer or somewhere. If it's not there on paper, then you can't. Okay, there is another gentleman, Anjappa. If someone is applied for staff quarters and government is not providing information, RTI file but no reply, go through the appellate process, first appeal and the second appeal. I'm not saying everything will succeed. We have very bad commissioners and very bad officers. So therefore I said that in my opinion, about 30% of the times, something will actually lead to a result.
I think the bottom line, what Mr. Gandhi has been saying is we need to learn to persevere and pursue. sometimes we leave it halfway down because you have processes of appeal and other things right up to the information commissioner level, but we don't exhaust those means. So that's the reason why it's very, very important that.
And just one thing, Dolphy, I'd like to add: do not, and I'm repeating this, do not go chasing the PIO. I've heard a lot of people saying, I went 5 times. Don't go like a beggar. You are establishing the sovereignty of the Indian citizen. So please, yes, you are equal. I'm not saying the public servant is not a sovereign of this country. He's also a sovereign. But it's a relationship of equals. Don't go begging before anyone. Don't get angry and get into fights also. But treat somebody as an equal.
Do post on the chats how many of you from the participants have filed RTI applications. We need to know how many of them have made an attempt to file RTIs to get an idea, because idea is to engage Mr. Shailesh Gandhi to see we can basically have what we call a practice or a trial session in terms of topics and how to frame the RTI questions and other things put together at a later stage. We will try to work it out with Mr. Gandhi, depending on his time availability. But it's very important, are we making attempts or we have made attempts to file RTIs? Maybe put it on the chat.
Sorry, Dolphy, I'm seeing a very interesting thing. Rafael D'Souza is saying, I have filed and had immediate result.
If you want, I can share. If you want, I can share, Mr. Shailesh Gandhi, about this.
Please.
In fact, what happened is I live in Borivali. Next to our parish, a church, there was a kiosk. And the complaint was at this kiosk, drugs were also being sold. This was some time back. However, the kiosk, despite all the efforts from the school authorities and church authorities, was not being taken up. So what I did is I filed an RTI application, asking them who had given this permission, under what license, and who gave them the connection for electricity and all that. After 20 days, I received a reply to say that the kiosk has been removed. So that was the immediate result that I got.
Very good. Very nice, sir. Thank you.
In fact, Mr. Gandhi, if you look at it, several of them have filed RTIs in the participants list that are there today.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's a good sign and a good trend. Some of them have done multiple RTIs.
Share the presentation if you can with the participants.
We will do that. We will share it with them. And before we have the formal vote of thanks, Mr. Gandhi, our next session, which Mr. Shailesh Gandhi will conduct himself, is scheduled for 25th June between 6:30 and 8 p.m. And I would like Mr. Gandhi to share a little on the Act 21, because it's important that you should participate in this particular session too. And a request that please confirm your participation well in advance. I will request Alvin, our host, whether we can take more than 100 numbers, because the next session is going to be equally critical and very interesting and very powerful, which many of us don't know about and we have not used it. So I would like in a few minutes for Mr. Gandhi to create an appetite for you for this particular session of the 25th June called Act 21. Yeah.
RTI Act works because citizens are using it and therefore a pressure is built. We have another law, which is a Maharashtra law. It's not a central law, called Act 21 of 2006, about which we'll talk. But let me tell you something. It is, in my opinion, little more powerful than RTI, at least equally powerful. If we get it implemented, and law is what is passed by legislature or parliament. Therefore, here is a law which has been on our statute books. Most of us are unaware of it. I call it a confidential law. I'm joking. Nothing can be confidential law. But if you learn how to use it and start putting pressure, I think we can see a great change in the governance of Maharashtra in 5 years. I can guarantee you the government will become much better, much more responsive than it is. Compared to RTI, this is actually a more powerful law. It has powerful provisions. It is just that it has not been popularized. And if you apply right now, quite often they may not even respond to the law, but that is illegal. And if we build a slightly strong movement out of this, we can get it implemented. Do come next Thursday. I would urge you to come.
Yeah, I now thank you, Mr. Gandhi, and there will be obviously a formal vote of thanks, and we would like to thank all the participants. Sorry, there are a lot of participants who were out on the wings, as I call it, because of the numbers that shot up because of Mr. Gandhi's popularity in terms of listening to one of the most authoritative voices in the RTI movement. And maybe at some stage, we can also talk about impact stories. Mr. Rafael, the president, has already shared one, but I know for sure in the participants, we have several others who have stories to share about the impact of RTI to motivate us to file RTI. So maybe one session we can always have with under Mr. Shailesh Gandhi in terms of some of the impact stories that Mr. Shailesh Gandhi himself has managed to do to inspire the others to do it. So over to Lawrence.
Yeah, so I would like to thank the participants for coming and joining us. I know that we have learnt a lot today, and I would also like to thank Mr. Shailesh Gandhi for having come and spend time with us. We love you, sir. We love the work you do, and thank you for inspiring us throughout. Mr. Dolphy, thank you for actually showing the idea that we should do an RTI conference. Yes, definitely there were challenges, but we will look at how to overcome these challenges to a review. So thank you one and all, and I look forward to hosting you guys again next week, same time. I will be sharing details on WhatsApp shortly.
You can show the poster in the meantime. You can show the poster.
Yeah, I'm actually having difficulty with the difficulty sharing the screen. Yeah, probably again we block the access for everyone else. Yeah. So thank you all once and all.
I have allowed
you, advocate. Yeah, you allowed 1 minute. 1 minute, please. 1 minute. No, it's. Yeah, maybe it's not happening. Next time we do a rehearsal. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Take care and bye, Shailesh ji.
Shailesh ji, thank you very much.
Lauren, thanks. Alvin, thanks.
Yeah.
Bento, bye.
Bye. Bye.
Vinod, bye.
Thank you everyone who participated.
Yes. Thanks for all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.